All right, so here's a quick little 10-minute routine you could do if you feel like you're crunched for time. You want to inject something into your day that's good for your low back, your pelvis, your hips. You know you've got stiff hips, but you feel like you don't have a ton of time to deal with it. This is a little 10-minute routine you can inject into your day, make a part of your regular life to start working on those things from home. You don't have to do any thinking. I will take care of all of that for you. So we're going to get right into it. You're going to need a little floor space. You're going to need a wall or a piece of furniture. I'm going to use this box instead of a wall just so you guys can see me better. If you have a yoga block, a foam roller, or something similar, grab it, have it handy, and we're just going to dive right into it. I'm going to start with my left leg here. Now, many of you guys know the classic hip flexor stretch, right? We're going to put you in a bit of a hip flexor stretch while we actually mobilize the opposite hip. So what that's going to look like, I'm going to go up on my block here, my elevated surface in front of my piece of furniture or my wall, and I'm going to come up into this very commonly known hip flexor stretch position. I do not want to be bowed through the front of my hip like this. I want a straight line between my shoulder and my knee. I'm going to be nice and tall. I'm going to place my hands up in the box in front of me, and I'm going to roll my pelvis underneath me so that I feel a stretch in the front of my right hip. Then with my two hands, I'm going to place my hands on my piece of furniture on my wall. I'm going to take slack out of my shoulder blades by pushing my shoulder blades apart, making my upper back go backwards, and you get bonus points if you add an exhale. That's going to bring your obliques in. You're going to feel your side abs engaged. Don't lose them when you go through this hip mobility drill on this left side. That's going to help to stabilize your pelvis so you can better isolate your hip. Now that we've got all that going on, we're going to bring our front leg towards our chest. Then we're going to open up to the side as far as we can. When you can't go any further, you're going to spin that hip inwards, kick that foot up as high as you can. Then you're going to reach that leg back behind you, and when you can't go back anymore, your knee's going to drop down, come back towards the other side. You're going to follow through. Now we're going to throw it in reverse. You're going to go straight back into a donkey kick. You're going to bring that hip up towards your left shoulder. You're going to come up around in front, back through hip flexion, and then you're going to lower back down. That was one rep. We're going to do another one. Same thing here. Good exhale. Press your shoulder blades apart. Make sure you feel a good stretch in the front of that right hip. Left hip is going to come up into flexion, up towards your chest. Then open up to the side. Then spin your thigh inwards. Then reach that leg back behind you. Then bring that leg back down and under. And now we're going to throw it in reverse. We're going to trace our steps back in reverse, going back, coming into abduction up to the side, rotating through, and then coming back down in front. We've only got one more here. One nice, slow, smooth rep here. Less linear movements. Try and smooth it out. Knee comes up, out to the side, spins, reach back, comes back down and under, and then throw it in reverse. We're going to go back, up to the side, rotate through, knee to chest, parachute back down. Now we're going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Instead of a wall or a piece of furniture on this side, I'm actually just going to use this pole in front of me. We'll see how I do. Make do with what you have, right? You don't always have all the perfect props. That's okay. I just care that you guys can see this hip and what's happening here. I'm going to take this hand and place it on my pelvis because I want to limit pelvis motion. We're going to press into our object, into our wall. For me, my pole. Bonus points for the exhale. Find your obliques. Don't lose them. Knee comes up towards your chest. Open up to the side. Then spin that thigh inwards. Reach your leg back behind you. Bring that leg back down and through. Now we're going to throw it in reverse here, back into extension. Bring that leg back up to your side. Work that side hip. Rotate through. Bring it back down in front. Parachute back down. We've got two more here. Don't lose your obliques. Knee comes up. Open up to the side. Spin that leg inwards. Reach back behind you. Leg comes back down and under. And now you're throwing it in reverse. Okay, back into extension. Bring that leg up. Rotate through. Back around in front. Parachute back down. Last one. Make it as smooth as you can. Good exhale. Press away. Don't lose those obliques. Keep them involved. Knee comes up towards your chest. Open up. Rotate. Reach back. Leg comes back down. And then reverse back into extension. Open up and back through. Now what you've done is you've used basically all the movements of your hip. You've scoured the outer limits of your hip. You've found your end ranges in basically every direction, and you've used them by moving your femur on your pelvis. What most people forget when they're trying to improve hip mobility or pelvis mobility is that their pelvis makes up half of their hip joint. Don't neglect the pelvis. You gotta make sure you're keeping your pelvis moving as well. That's a mistake that most people make, but you won't make that mistake, not today and not in this video. So this will check that box for you. It's my job to think about it so that you don't have to. The way that we're gonna start to get that pelvis moving, I'm gonna come back to my left leg. I'm gonna come into this all fours position here on my left leg. Here's what we're gonna do. Follow along with me. I'm gonna imagine a laser coming out of my pubic bone or out of my belly button. I'm gonna turn it over to the left side of the room. Then while I stay turned to the left side, I'm gonna slide back. Oh no, my box is in my way, so I'm just gonna push it out of my way. There we go. Slide back into as much hip flexion as you can. Then you're gonna open up, you're gonna turn your belly button and point it to the opposite side of the room, and then you're gonna bring yourself back forward. Turn it, point to the left, sit all the way back, so as far as you can back, then turn over to the right, and then you're gonna come forward. Okay, we're gonna do a few more of these. Turn down, come down, sit as low as you can, turn out to the right, come all the way back up, and you can play with how far you go. Find a range of motion that feels good, and just move through that range and try and really smooth it out. Now we're gonna throw it in reverse. So I'm gonna keep my belly button pointed towards you, pelvis is opened up towards you. I'm gonna sit back, then I'm gonna push this back a little further, so it's getting in my way. I'm gonna turn down towards that side, and then I'm gonna come all the way back up. I'm gonna rotate, turn my pelvis towards you, slide down, turn that pelvis towards that knee as much as I can, come back up, and then we're gonna do one more here. Turn to the outside, slide down, turn to the inside, slide back up. Now we're gonna do the exact same thing over on the other side. The other side needs some love too. Now I don't have to worry about my box. Right knee in front. We're gonna turn our pelvis over to the right, and we're gonna sit back as far as we can, okay? So my foot can be flexed or pointed. I'm gonna go pointed because I can get a little deeper. Then I'm gonna rotate out towards you, and then I'm gonna open all the way back up. You're trying to take as much weight through your right leg as you can. Your hands are just there to balance and kind of guide you, but you're not putting a ton of weight through them. Turn your pelvis to the right, slide all the way back, turn your pelvis to the left, slide all the way forward. Give me one more in that direction. Turn to the right, slide back, turn to the left, slide up. Now we're gonna throw it back the other way. Back into hip flexion, pelvis turn towards you. I'm gonna turn my pelvis the other way, and I'm gonna come back up. Rotate towards you, slide back, rotate down, slide up. Pelvis points towards you, slide all the way back. Pelvis points to the right side of the room, all the way back up. Very good. Now, join me in what we call a modified 90-90 position. Both knees are bent here. I've got one foot touching that thigh, my other leg's back behind me. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to fold at my hips. So I'm gonna try and stay tall, but I'm gonna fold at my hips, come forward, and then I'm gonna push myself up into hip extension, getting as tall as I can. I'm gonna rotate both hips through. Rotation is the fundamental movement of your hips. Use it, then fold yourself back into hip flexion. Now, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna push through both feet. So I'm gonna try to push through and straighten that leg out as this leg comes up into hip flexion, okay? And now from there, I'm gonna push this leg back as far as I can. This might be limited for you. You might have to lean back a little bit. That's okay, do what you can. If you can stay upright, stay upright. Now you're in what we call a half 90 position. Now we're gonna make our way back out of it. Again, if you need to lean back, please feel free. I'm gonna rotate this leg back through, back up into hip flexion and external rotation. And then I'm gonna start to bend this other knee, and I'm gonna pull both knees back into our modified 90-90 position. We're gonna come up into hip extension just like we did before. We're gonna rotate our hips back through the other way. Then we're gonna sit and fold ourselves back at our hips again, okay? Now same thing here. I'm gonna straighten out my right leg, and I'm gonna bring my left leg up into hip flexion and external rotation. And then you're gonna slide that leg back. And if you need to lean back, you can. If you can stay upright with me. Slide that leg back so that you've got a 90-degree bend there. Now you're in that modified 90-90. Now we're gonna come back up, or half 90-90. up into hip flexion. We're gonna turn this leg, point that foot inwards, and we're gonna pull ourselves back into this modified 90-90 position. Let's do one more each way. Extend your hips, rotate, hinge at your hips, sit back, straighten your left leg, bring your right leg up into hip flexion, rotate it through, push back through that foot into hip extension. Then we're gonna bring it in reverse, come right back up, rotate that hip the other way, bend this knee, pull it in. Now we're back in our modified 90-90. We're gonna sit into those hips, we're gonna bend and then extend at those hips. We're gonna rotate our thighs the other way. You're gonna fold at your hips, nice easy landing. You're gonna push through that right leg to straighten that right leg out as best you can. You're gonna bring this leg up into hip flexion. If you need to lean back or prop yourself up, go for it. And then you're gonna reach that leg back behind you. We're almost there. Bring that leg back up through hip flexion. We're gonna rotate this leg back through and pull our legs back together. And now we're back where we started in this modified 90-90 position, which is honestly a really great stretch to just hang out and end with. You can stretch yourself over this way. You can stretch yourself over this way. Work on hip internal rotation, external rotation, hang out here, breathe, or just go enjoy your day, and now you've done 10 minutes of hip and pelvis mobility. If you guys have any questions about this, do not hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, enjoy, sprinkle it into your life. Hopefully your hips and pelvis start feeling a little better, and I will see you in the next video.